All right, guys. Hello, hello, and welcome to another info session. Today we have a very interesting conversation. We have Miss Rebecca from Kentucky. She's a child welfare professional for 17 years, and you guys are doing some major improvement, right? Major changing or challenging the process over in Kentucky. So I'm excited to hear what exactly are you guys are doing over there, Miss Rebecca. Good morning to start with. Good morning.
Good morning, Val, and thank you for this, and thank you for the opportunity to get the word out and encourage other child welfare professionals um, to advocate
Most
for
definitely.
themselves and their coworkers.
Right.
Um, we have been struggling for a long time in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Um, I am I advocate quite a bit for my coworkers and myself, and I've always been one of the people at the head of challenging the system and challenging the process through my
Most definitely.
17.
Most definitely.
This past year, though, um, we have taken the bull by the horns in a much different way than we have before. Unfortunately, you may know as child welfare professionals, um, we have to advocate for our job.
Most
I
definitely.
always tell people children don't vote and they don't pay taxes,
Yeah.
and therefore they are very seldom considered priority.
Right.
So advocating for us in our profession is something that's always going to be a piece of what we do.
Most definitely.
Um, I have, in many instances, been involved with my coworkers, encouraging them in how to advocate for themselves within the job, how to set boundaries, how to push for change. Um, but with COVID and this new age of workforce,
Right.
Kentucky almost imploded.
Right.
We currently, in doing the position that I have, when we're fully staffed, we should have 70 staff.
Right.
We have 15 staff.
Wow.
We have 15 staff, and that changes every day because people are literally walking out the door.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, we rallied each other. We talked about what the problems were. We talked about what do we need to do? How can we fix it? And we brought everybody on board. And last month, for the first time, we went to Frankfurt, which is our capital.
Okay.
Um, we showed up on the Capitol steps.
Rebecca,
We kind
I have a
of, mm,
question for you actually. So your state is because different states have different child welfare system, right? Some are county based, some are centralized by the state. So are you guys because you said you went to the capital, so I'm assuming you guys are centralized.
we hmm, we have a centralized intake process.
Okay.
We are divided into what we call service regions.
Okay.
Which are groups of counties.
Okay.
Kentucky has more counties than any state in the country.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
yeah. So we are divided into service regions, but where am Jefferson County, we're the largest county in the state, and so we are our own service region.
Yeah.
Other service regions encompass up to 10 counties.
Okay. Okay.
Out in rural areas of the state, they cover a much greater area.
All right. Sorry. Thank you for that information. So you said you routed them up. You went to the Capitol, and what was the goal of going to the Capitol?
At this point, let me go back. Before we went to the Capitol, we brainstormed on what do we need to do, and the first thing we thought was we have to talk to the legislators. We have to talk to legislators. We cannot keep people. We cannot keep up with the private sector pay wise. We're losing people left and right.
Most
Um,
definitely.
our benefits package is not what it was when I started 17 years ago. We have to get the legislators. So um, people reached out locally and then said, hey, my representative is willing to meet with us. And we started Zoom meetings with individual representatives across the state.
Mhm.
Um, the first representative we met with, and I will name Jimmy Higdon, was moved to tears when he heard us talk.
Mhm.
He went before a committee and told them he has never heard a more heart-wrenching plea from his constituents than what he heard from us that day.
Well,
And
that is, yeah.
yeah,
So
it,
I have a question for you because I mean, I'm just like I'm so impressed with what you guys are doing, right? And that is something that is an issue that we all struggle with, child welfare wise, losing folks to the private sector, losing great folks to the private sector, right? Because they're not able to pay back their student loans. I mean, let's start with
correct,
that. Right.
correct.
And you know what it is, we have high expectations for our professionals, for our field, because we have children's life at stake, right? So we want the best in our field, right? And if we could, right now we're leaning having folks having their masters in social work, which is I'm all for. But however, we want to make sure we're able to keep those folks, right? Once they get into the field, we're able to keep them. Now, recently, in our group, there was a posting that came along where they had asked, the lady was asking, what she stated what her salary was, and was asking our other followers, what's the range, what it is in your state. And I mean, it blew my mind to see the difference in salary. It started from like, I wrote it down, from 29K, right? That's just frontline, from 29K all the way to 55K. Now, of course, we have to consider, there are different factors that plays into salary, cost of living, all those play a part. But for it to be from 29 to 55, there are some issues here that we need to really look into and see, how can we do better. So I wanted to ask you, in you guys' process, how was the support of leadership? Because one thing that I've seen in child welfare, all of our leadership are folks that have started from frontline, right? So they know the struggle that we've gone through, and obviously they've worked their way up to a leadership position. And I've always had the experience of them supporting us, right? Because they are child welfare professionals themselves. So how have their support been? Right? How involved or engaged they've been in the process?
We have 100% support from our leadership, specifically in my county, in my region. Yes,
Most definitely, yeah, yeah.
have learned, unfortunately, not everybody has that same support, but I have never seen this level of support from upper management in my 17 years. And I've
Definitely.
taken many actions at various points in the process. I've done this before, never to this level, but I've done this before. I act first and worry about repercussions later sometimes. When I'm really passionate about something,
Yeah.
which is why I've been the point person many times. But we have support of our management, because our agency is literally falling apart at this point.
Right.
This is not an agency problem. We can talk to our management about processes and management issues and supervision issues. We can do that. That's not where we are at this point.
Right.
This is a
Right.
legislative issue. This is bottom line. This is a money issue
Right.
that hasn't been dealt with for decades,
Right.
decades in Kentucky. So our leadership has assured us there will be no retaliation. We've had leadership appear in our meetings. We've had
Most definitely.
leadership show up in Frankfort. So that is a very refreshing change in the situation. So it's wonderful. It's
That
wonderful.
is, yeah.
Mhm.
And honestly, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised to hear that, right? Because a lot of times, like I said, our leadership. I mean, and I've seen that in child welfare because we have several leadership in our group, and they're 100% supporting of their staff. And I'm not. It's not shocking to me to hear that they are supporting you guys. So you said that. So you guys went and made contact with the legislature, right? What are the steps now? How are you guys doing now? How is the workforce? How is the morale?
Uh,
How is that going right now?
It's tough. It's really tough. But as I mentioned, we have 1,000 people in this specific employee group, and so we are encouraging each other that way. in our offices, we're encouraging each other and having people join the group if they're not already in, and get involved. And there are many, many ways to get involved. There are many steps that are happening in this process. We met with the legislators individually. I think we met with 10 different legislators on various occasions.
Mhm.
And then last month, for the first time, we went to Frankfurt.
Okay.
We did go into
Frankfurt, the capital.
Frankfurt is the capital of
Yes.
Kentucky.
I'm a little slow. Bear with me. Okay.
Okay.
I'm there. I got it.
We did go into the committee meeting. We were not scheduled and allowed to speak at that meeting, which we knew was an opportunity, but we were there to make our presence known.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
There is a meeting later this morning, the members of our group, to talk about what's happening behind the scenes, because we're not doing this on our own. It's not just the employees. We have had wonderful support from NASW.
Mhm.
We have support from other advocacy groups to help us focus and really hone in on what it is that we want to achieve.
Right.
And knowing which issues to present to our legislators, because they can't legislate our
Everything.
management.
Right.
You know, so we have to be very concise in what we're asking for and how to present them information that they can use and will listen to and react to. So that meeting's coming later this morning. I'm excited for that.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
So what would, so like you said, this issue is not just Kentucky, right? That is an issue that's impacting child welfare in many other states. What would be some advice that you would want to give some of your fellow child welfare professionals that are in different states that are seeing that that there are some issues in the service center or in their area that's truly impacting their service delivery to the community? Because at the end of the day, if we're not supported, if we're short staffed, you said you're supposed to be at 70 and you're currently at 15.
Yes.
Right. I mean,
Yes.
How are we providing quality service, right? I mean, it's tough to provide the service that we want to provide to the community. And I think that that is a common theme within child welfare, right? We're not getting the support from our elected officials. Once again, they're elected, they're working for us. So we need to start, like you said, you really, going in there and say, okay, here's what we need, right? We put you in this office to help us. Here's what we need. Because we all know, speaking to our supervisors, speaking to our managers, our directors, there's only so much they could do. So what advice would you give someone that is, some of our folks that are looking to say, you know what, I really want to be involved. I really want to start advocating for myself, like you stated. What advice, what advice would you give, or what are some lessons learned, right? Would you share with us?
One thing that's really important is to understand how your system works, and how the government system works. And a lot of new employees come in and they don't understand. We're state government employees. Some things can be done by these people, other things can be done by these people. So you need to understand the process and who controls what and who affects what. That's the first part of it. The second part of it is gathering people and just doing it. You have to do the work. We have engaged community partners. We have a family court system here in Kentucky. So we have specific family court judges. We have called on family court judges. We have called on family court attorneys. We have called on community partner agencies. The other part of it that we have focused on is explaining, really talking about what we do as child welfare professionals.
Most definitely.
People don't know what it means to be a social worker, and we're not all social workers, but they don't know what our job is about. Right. The other part of it is talking specifically in concise stories that explain what we do on a daily basis. And our focus has been, how does that affect families and children? Because those families are their constituents, and those families are the people that vote them in office.
Most definitely.
Those families are the ones that are suffering because of their lack of action at this point.
Or understanding, right? I
So
understand it.
you have to keep your focus on what's the end game and how does it relate to the legislature, because that's where we need action at this point.
And you said as you were speaking, right? I'm thinking to myself like, oh, come on, Rebecca. We getting cases left and right. I got home visits to do. I got these reports, this documentation I got to get in. I'm on call tonight, right? And I'm thinking, how am I going to get involved? But then a voice come to my head and said, well, Val, Rebecca's functioning at 15 employees where there should be 70, and you guys still took the time to make the time to get involved, because that is the only way that we will get some consistent change, right? Some consistent change in the system. And then I applaud you guys for doing that, because we all know child welfare is a very we're going 100 miles on a slow day, right? With everything, on call visits, documentation, all these different home visits, all these things are putting a lot on us. Not adding the emotional expectations or pulling that it requires. So I applaud you guys for, seeing, okay, yes, the only way we could get out of here is to take the time to take the action, to challenge the process. But
if I can say real quick, Val, that is something that's come up. Many people will say, I don't have time. I don't have time.
Right.
We have to make the time.
Right.
If we don't make the time to do this, then nothing will change.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
And you touched a little bit on how are we doing quality work. We're not. We in Kentucky are not doing quality work at this time. We're doing crisis management right now.
Right.
Like you said, if we're ever going to get out of it, we have to figure out a way to spend our personal time to do some of this. And it does mean that we're taking some of our professional time away from the job that we already have too much to do to address some of these things as well. It's something that has to be done.
And you don't have to be to Mr. Know-it-all or Mrs. Know-it-all to get involved, right? We all know what the issue is. It's just a matter of speaking to your coworkers and finding a way, reaching out. Who's your local elected official, right? And reaching out to them and say, okay, what is your agenda for us? You need to start adding us to your list, right?
Yes.
Because when we're looking for those votes, you were out there. Now we need your support so that we could deliver, like you said, so we could deliver the right service to the community. So we could have the right qualified, passionate individuals remaining in this field, right? Okay. Well, I think this is inspiring, right? And I think that looking in our groups, and that is a constant conversation that we have, right, about the retention issue, the salary issue. But I'm glad to hear that there's a trailblazer out there in Kentucky, that is really challenging the system that we could all learn from. Right. Yeah. Maybe we don't have to get as major as you are, but taking small steps and getting involved in our own state or county level child welfare system.
There are ways too, real quick. There are ways that are not public. If you're not comfortable, if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel supported, we're making T-shirts, we're making flyers, we're making websites. All of those things are helping. I don't know how to do all of those things.
Right. But we'll collectively come together. Yeah.
So there are many things that are needed to help. If you get into it, that there's something for everybody to do.
Most definitely.
We are headed back to Frankfort. We are going back to Frankfort next week. We are on the agenda for the committee.
Awesome.
Right now, our governor is deciding who gets emergency pay through COVID. And so we are going to specifically advocate for that at this point for us here in Kentucky, as probably across the country. We never stopped working during COVID.
No, we did not.
So we're going back to Frankfort. We're taking a bunch of other people with us who were not able to go last time. And it's really exciting what's happening in the attention that we're getting. We're getting attention nationally and locally to make these changes.
Yeah. Well, you have our support. And I really think that the biggest takeaway in this conversation is for our followers, right? For you, right? To really get involved because we all have the issue, and our leadership, they will support you, right? They will, because they know what the issue is. They have their hands tied behind their backs, right? Because we're going to them, we need help, we need help, we need help. There's only so much they could do. If they don't have
Yeah.
the right funding to address those issues, then we're gonna be back at ground zero.
Yeah.
I think that you're doing an awesome job, right? We as child professionals, guys, we have to get involved, right? We have, utilize social media, right? Utilize your coworkers. Let's talk. Okay, here's what can we do? Reach out to your local officials. I think that I'm excited. I'm excited to see the outcome of this. I'm really excited to see the change that's going to come out of it, and I'm sure you guys will have a successful. I'm looking forward to the next year, right, to see what comes out of it. Well, is there any last word that you want to share with us, Rebecca?
Not that I can think, Val. As child welfare professionals, we advocate daily.
Most
We
definitely.
we have to remind ourselves to advocate for us.
Right,
Um,
right, right, right.
And that's the bottom line. We have to advocate for us.
Yes, self-advocacy,
Help
right? Yeah,
help families and children. Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, all right, guys, that will wrap up. Thank you so much for taking the time to speaking with us today to inspire us to advocate for ourselves. Well, all right, guys, I'm Val, your fellow child for professionals. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you get the latest video that we have. All right, I'm Val, your fellow child for professional, and let's stay connected.